Hi, I'm Shelly from Eternal Being, and we're welcome to Shelly here, our clinical hypnotherapist within our clinic for the 21st Central Healing podcast. Welcome, Shelly. So today we're going to talk about children, aren't we?
Yes.
So where do you want to start? Because there's quite a lot, isn't it? What have we been seeing in the clinic that's been coming in? What have you seen that there's been the highlight of referrals coming into you?
The main problem at the moment with children, and quite young children as well, from about, I'd say from about the age of 8, personally, a lot of anxiety and stress across a wide range of subjects. So not just things, pressure of exams, even the little ones are having their tests. They may have had a lot of time off during lockdown, so they don't feel they're up to speed, but the pressure is still there. There's bullying, the social anxiety, the sporting prowess as children have been locked in, they've not been able to go out and play, getting injured because then they're going out and doing a little bit too much. And just the little friendship groups not being in place or not fitting quite in. And having been online for such a long time, they've got these other ideas and role models now of where they think they need to fit in. And it's untying that gently, very gently with children. It's such a delicate process as they are so delicate. And as they're getting older, picking up information from the children, other children at school that they've picked up from the home. So it's very difficult at the moment. It's very emotional.
How do parents find the right therapist for their child or children? Because it can be, sibling rivalry as well, different ages in a family, like we've seen within the clinic, haven't we? You know, siblings of 2 to 3 year age difference, but there's problems with both.
Oh, for sure, yes. And there's just within the siblings and the different age groups, if there's an older child or a middle or just a single child, it has such an impact. And they go through their development stages. They can't quite understand what they're feeling and why, but they feel some sort of at odds with themselves, but their brains aren't able to comprehend what the feelings are telling them. So it might be acted out in different types of behaviour that they've seen on TV or school or friends' behaviour. But finding a therapist, luckily there is information out there, a lot of information, almost too much.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it can be really confusing.
Super confusing. So you have to almost whittle out some of the sites that don't look quite authentic, which sounds difficult to describe, but you get a feel for a site, whether it's been professionally written, photographs, are there reviews, do they link to other people? But the first port of call, if you want to look for a decent therapist, is you can look on the NHS website, and they have guidelines for most types of therapies. So I'm qualified in hypnotherapy. I have studied in counselling as well as other techniques within therapy. But most therapists will align themselves on a particular register. They will then highlight you to a website that gives you registered to their level therapists of all different types, whether it's complementary therapy, holistic, something a bit more detailed, but they have a huge register. So if you use that as your main portal, that's a great start.
And the other one to add there is the Complementary Medical Association as well to find as well. You'll find fantastic practitioners and therapists there as well. And like you said, for me personally as a parent myself, and your daughter's older now, but she's too glamorous to be a grandma, but she's got 2 grandchildren. But that the stress of that as well, their age groups and so on, and what you've gone through with your grandsons and so on. But it's to look at reviews as well. I think you make a massive difference, and call them.
Reviews, recommendations are always the number one way of finding people. People are always asking me. That's why we work great together, working out. And if it's not us two, we know other people within the fields as well. But the registers tell you that this person is qualified to a certain level. They set the levels which are high. You have to be not just qualified, you have to be insured,
Yes.
and you have to belong to the registers, and also, particularly with children, have your DBS clearance, which is the police check to ensure that you're clear of any convictions. So these are standards that you can look out for as a very high benchmark, and then work beyond that. And often you look at profiles, you look at the photo, you look at their specialisms, and you get an idea and a feel. And sometimes you might need to speak to 2 or 3. Sometimes you send an email, you don't get a response. It does happen out of accident, glitches happen in the system. You can phone or text, see if they're on social media, see if they're interactive, see how the clients are, any responses online. So you want to see a big picture available to you, and make the contact. Be never afraid of making contact and finding out. And I always find personally, speaking to the client, obviously it's the parent, they're searching for the child, is there a connection? Is there a rapport? Without that, there isn't going to be much therapy working, because you're essentially working with the child through the parent, and everybody has to feel comfortable, and the parent has to be welcome in the therapy as well.
It needs to flow.
It needs to be a nice, gentle flow.
Yeah.
The child needs to be made feel welcome. They don't want to feel that they're on the spot, they've done something wrong, they're coming to see someone. Personally, I take a very relaxed approach with children. A shorter session. They do need quite a number of sessions before they're even comfortable with you to talk about anything.
Yeah, totally.
So as long as you make the parent aware of this and they're happy, then something can flow. And the great thing is children can be so responsive so quickly because they're excited.
Yeah.
And the little sponge absorbs it, they get motivated, they clear away the cobwebs, they clear any confusion, and they get a nice bit of direction, including the parent. It's not me doing anything with them, it's a cooperation. We do storytelling, we play, and if I'm doing therapy, if I do hypnosis with the child, I tend to do it together, so I do it with them, so I'm not doing the talking, I'll use something pre-recorded. So I do it with them, so we're on this journey together. So they feel comfort. Yeah. They're not going to achieve anything if they're feeling anxious in the therapeutic state. So I
think it's such a valuable tool, and I wish it was actually incorporated in the school curriculum.
Yes.
It could change so much.
Yeah.
It really could.
Yeah.
For children to realise that there is something for them, and especially with the times that we've had over the years, as you said, regards to the lockdowns and so on. The kids don't know if they're coming or going. 1 minute things are closed down, 1 minute everything's opened up, 1 minute they're not wearing masks anymore. The confusion of it all is it's massive, and then the anxiety and stuff that some children have with just that in itself.
Yes, I mean, I'm sure you've seen children still walking to school with masks on.
Yeah.
Walking down the street in the open air, and you think, well, that's their choice, but what has triggered that choice? Will they feel so afraid now to not have it? And even incorporating it, my boys were incorporating it. We're doing play, and we're playing like the shops, and they're like, oh, you haven't got your mask on. Like it's a general thing now. You think, oh gosh, but they will forget it too as we move forward. But then there's other things that take its place, like the current news and situation.
What do you think's in school and at home that could possibly help parents to reach out to as well? Is there anything that's available?
Within the home, it's always practice what you preach.
Yeah.
So if it's an anxious household, you can't scream at your child to calm down, finish the dinner, do your homework, whilst you're sitting there watching TV with a plate of chips.
On your phone.
On your phone, exactly. You have to practice what you preach. Children won't do what you tell them. They will do what they see, which they pick up even before they're able to speak or toddle around. They will remember how they feel, not what you tell them. They'll remember how you've made them felt.
It's always the emotion. Always.
The emotion gets locked in,
yeah,
like your DNA code, and it gets banked every second, every minute, every day. Months and years go by, then you have an adult who's perhaps insecure, lack of confidence, boisterous, aggressive, because it's habits and behaviours from the house. So as parents, of course we want to parent lovingly, efficiently, but you want them to be productive, you want them to be sociable, you want them to be clever, held in high esteem and confident. But there's a balance, and parents are under their own pressures, because if the child doesn't live up to their expectations, they see it as a personal lack of conviction that they've given the child. They see it as a personal insult against everybody else.
I find that, what you just said there is spot on, really spot on. After I finished filming yesterday and I got a business meeting, and I was talking to this amazing person, exciting times ahead, but their son had walked in after school.
Yeah.
And he stopped, he went, he's just past his thing, but I have to do this, and he needs to be a dentist or a doctor. And
that's it.
And I went, right, stop.
Yes.
And this is my first meeting with this person. And I went, can I just say something to you? I know that we're having a business meeting and it's amazing that your son and we really got on really, really well. And he went, I really hear you, actually. I said, he's his own person. Yeah. And if you force a child to go down a career path, are they actually going with their dreams, admirations? All my 3 children are all completely different. Some similarities, but they are all completely different. Forcing children to go down certain routes because that is what has been done in your family. Come on. What are they passionate about? Do understand that you need to get, homeworks, and you need to be assertive in some ways. But and it really made him think.
That's great. Yeah, no, that's good, because pushy parenting is very difficult to balance. If the parents are successful, obviously they want the child to follow in the same footsteps.
And they spoil them.
They have all the
by
gadgets.
Their love.
Yeah, by their love. And sometimes it works. The child can still be very capable and appreciative and have gratitude. And equally, as we know from examples in media and friends I'm sure we know, it doesn't. The child becomes lazy, thinks everything comes for free, and they have no consideration for others. I see people that are very successful, grown people, in their 30s and 40s or whatever age, and they've met the expectations, but extremely unhappy.
Yeah, totally.
Really unhappy. Stuck in this job, desperate for a word of positivity from their parents, even as grown adults.
Yeah.
And they're not quite getting it. For example, someone was saying she didn't make a doctor, but she's very successful with her own business in other ways, and they still can't get over the fact that she's not a doctor.
Yeah, and that connection then for the older child, same as the younger child as well, they're wanting to find love and happiness and acceptance from their family. I find it fascinating, and people go into older life, as we discussed, with all these issues and problems, and they keep achieving, but when they get the achievement, it's another one, and they can't be still.
No, they can't be happy, and they're always looking for that recognition.
Yeah.
Just be recognised, just be heard.
Yeah.
And older generations, perhaps aren't as up to date as younger people are, but it's still plenty goes on in younger people. The fat shaming, for instance, is a huge one in families.
Yeah.
In all sorts of backgrounds.
I've seen that in the clinic as well.
Yeah, and it's just constant. And you'd think nowadays people don't talk like that, but they really do.
They do.
And they think it's funny, and they will give that child an eating disorder. They give the adult an eating disorder.
We see it in the clinic, don't we?
Yeah. How many do we get?
Yeah.
And people think coming along for hypnosis, even children, it's a very tricky subject doing eating habits with children, because you don't want to give them any boundaries or make them feel in its obsession. But if a child refuses to eat certain types of food or doesn't eat food, has fear of food, different types of food, everything is driven by anxiety. There's something driving it, and it's something about having control over themselves in some way that their little minds can't even comprehend at the moment. And it's such a shame for them. They shouldn't have this worry on. They should be out enjoying themselves, having fun, bit of homework, safe and secure at home. The more we can do as parents to teach them this, living by example.
Yeah.
Having no phones at the dinner table, for instance.
Yeah.
Talking, asking about the day.
Limited time as well.
Yeah, sharing information.
In school, what do you think is what is in school, and what do you think should be in school for children? I mean, I'd love for us to be able to go in, you know, I do the meditation and dance and yoga to give back to schools, but then at the moment, because of all what's happened in the past, that's all been, no, we're not doing any of that at the minute, you know.
It's difficult. I think schools, I'm not an expert in working in schools, but from what I can see from my little ones and parents that I speak to, they do promote well-being and being kind and having good practice and working with each other. There's lots of very motivational information upon the school walls from what I can see. They do lots of activities encouraging, you know, social behaviours. But whether is that enough?
Yeah.
So I also know the flip side of incidences taking place but nothing really happening, because whether they're ill-equipped, they don't have the resources, or they don't want to bring it to the attention of everyone for fear of a bad name. So I think that's where it falls down.
And embarrassment as well.
The embarrassment of it. So I think people are now reaching out for private therapy.
Yeah.
Because whilst there may be a counsellor at school, which is brilliant, the counsellor and the fear of it getting spread around and being on their record.
The system,
I don't know where that goes. You know, the schools knowing their policies, but reaching out to private therapists is where the information can remain confidential, out of the school system and out of the family home, and accessing help. We all do it now. Things are made to be easier for us. We access people to help us out in their home. You know, personal trainers, for instance, or somebody helping with the shopping, you know, getting Deliveroo. All of these things are helpful in some way, and accessing someone to help the family is another avenue that they can do.
What do you think of the internet?
It's great.
We're
here on it. We're here on it. It's
with regards to children and so on, safeguarding, regards to, I find it quite...
It's intimidating.
Mind blowing.
It's intimidating, and as parents, you know, I think I'm up to date with online things, but nothing in the realms of what they are up to. You know, children are very ambidextrous with their fingers and thumbs, using screens, you know, game consoles, all the apps, what they can do from devices, iPads, PCs, all these messaging systems. You don't need to share numbers anymore. You don't need a telephone number. You can just tap phones and you can share a TikTok or a Snapchat profile. So lots of predatory people out there, lots of hidden messages out there that you do not want your child to pick up on, and they can be subliminal. They can just tap into the subconscious that they're not quite sure of. Maybe it's a little word, or it's an action, or it's a look. These things have power.
Yeah, hugely.
These pictures tell 1,000 words, and they're looking at these pictures and their brains are going through it like a very fast camera system, taking on board. Not quite sure, but when I'm in a certain situation, I'll do that. So it might be your daughter looking at you in a funny way, or maybe dressing in a certain way, or your boy, your little boy answering you back. Not done that before. Where's this come from? So again, I think there's parental controls that you can have, time limits on screen, having your internet system at home screened or blocking adult content.
Yeah, that's what we do in our house. Yeah. We have all the computers in one room.
Yes.
A time limit.
Yeah. And
we can view everything. It has to go through my husband's phone and my phone, so we can see absolutely everything.
Perfect. Yeah.
And it's easy to set up. Yes, you do have to pay a monthly subscription, but isn't that worth it? Would you have your door wide open and allow strangers to come in and take your children away?
Yes.
That's what the internet is.
Yes.
It's an open arena.
It is. There's various apps which are developing to be quite harmful or destructive. So it's just watching which apps they have, how much time they have on it, and keeping them careful with the photos and the selfies and any sort of camera online game playing. only doing it with people that they know. You know,
Yeah.
there's all these other people that pretend to be certain people. And that's the conversations you need to gently have with the child, because they'll have no awareness of that. We didn't have an awareness of it. You would think these things happen, but they really do. And there's a lot more to it than even I'm aware of.
And not being scared to follow the crowd either.
Yes.
You know my feelings on computer games and so on. I think a child should be free to play and to have time and actually be able to have a conversation with somebody.
Yes.
Instead of them being at a dinner table and a tablet or
and that is their normal.
Yeah.
If you're a parent and you give the young one, you see at the dinner table they're watching Peppa Pig or whatever while everyone else is there, just to keep the child quiet. Maybe it's a late dinner. Well, maybe don't, have that routine where it's a late dinner and they're sitting there. But that would be their normal. So then to take that away from them a year or two later, well, they don't know any different. You're telling them off for something that you've instilled in them. So they will cause a reaction. They will be upset because that's been their only means of interacting with people. And for children that have been stuck at home for the last couple of years or so, we were all very grateful for the internet. Zoom calls, online PT, totally. Socialising, finding out information, the news. So in one extreme, all of a sudden, it came a huge, even bigger necessity for us. And now we're saying, well, no, you've got to pull back now. Well, they were already used to it. That mind map's already made and the connections are there. And the youngsters now, they will do 10 words in 10 messages because that's how you just do things. And then if we write 2 or 3 sentences, it's like, oh, what is this? It's always hard for them to read, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even my own reading, I read in snippets now because you're sort of used to reading sort of paragraphs rather than a whole page. So it does take a lot of effort to switch that around. The blue light pollution, from the screens at bedtime, interfering with the melatonin production, and the further, radiation impacts from earphones and the devices.
I'm going to go on to autism because some
good.
children need tablets and stuff like that.
That's good.
But the problem with it is, as I found in the clinic, is that they've come in and the parents want to talk to me and I'm there for the child.
Yeah.
And they're like this, the zone, that's great, that's great. But there's other means, there's other things, toys, there's all sorts, tension balls, lights, there's all sorts. I find what works.
Yeah.
Some parents are not going to like what I'm going to say here, but I try and take that tablet away and interact with the child. I had a situation with, not a situation, but I had a child come into the clinic, 6 years old, massive digestion problems, couldn't speak, but could speak by mimicking. So the parents came in, lovely, absolutely lovely, put him on the electric massage chair, got him to play with the buttons, so distraction for him and also to keep his mind active. His mum started talking and he started rocking, shaking, then he was whacking the wall, and I just looked over him and said his name and went, don't do that, you're going to hurt yourself. Did it quite assertive to him, and he just looked at me to say, I'm being heard. And then he came over and he sat on my lap and started stroking my hair.
Oh, did he?
And the difference is understanding that parents want to rush children along with their development. And with autism, all different levels, their magic powers are on all different levels. So it's understanding and tapping into that. And I started talking and he was sitting there and he was just looking at me. It was like that, looking at me. And because I was talking with him, even though his speech wasn't coming out, he understood everything I was saying and some of the coping strategies that they could get for when he's out and about, ear defenders and stuff like that. Because if you're in an outside environment, all these stimuli that's coming in when you're high sensitive, it's going to overburden and panic. It's only been on the planet for 6 years. So it's working out with that child instead of rushing them along with speech therapy and all the rest. Don't get me wrong, you need speech therapy, but get the basics involved. And that's why seeing a practitioner that can help you with that. Because if you take a child down the tablet route constantly, all of their emotions, all of their feelings, they're going to get from the dopamine that's coming from that tablet. So anything on the outside environment, they're going to get frustrated, they're going to get angry. And it's understanding that, it's understanding where that is. So it's going to an expert, getting guidance assistance, and find out different tools that can help you in home and outside home as well. You know, it makes a massive difference. Because children don't know how to express themselves all the time. No, it comes out in frustration or anger or upset, when in actual thing it could be something really simple. You know, so tablets do work, but make sure it's limited time. A lot of the time, you know, I saw this in lockdown in particular, that it's easier for people.
They want the quick fix.
It's not a quick fix. I'm not saying that you can't do it, but just be aware that it's not taking over life. For sure. And use those different tools that they're going to help with playing on their own, or playing with sand, or playing with different materials as well. Get them used to those textures and things that are going on. But also find out what their interest is. What are they interested in? Because that, when they're interested in something, and they'll want to do it.
Well, they have, you know, where they lack in certain areas, they've got extra special ability in others.
Massively.
Don't
force
them.
Don't force them.
They can go on to have fantastic careers, fantastic educations, because they have that insight and the ability to just sit and pull something apart for hours and days.
It could be about dinosaurs. It could be like Biana, mushrooms. He wants to be a mushroom scientist. So, you know, he wants to heal the planet and heal the world. But find out, I know it's difficult as parents. You know, I've got 3, so I do understand. And we've gone through a really rough time with schools and so on. But we're getting to the other side now. And it is an endless battle. And there is amazing practitioners out there that have helped me in particular with my family with autism and the training that I've got. So just reach out. So I don't want it to isolate from that area as well, because it comes in all different forms.
Oh, definitely, and autism is on the rise, and people are recognising it more, which is a good thing, because it's just a different way of learning, is what I say to parents. It's not my specialism, but I do understand it's a huge concern. And to put their mind and the child's mind at rest, for me, it's just a different way of learning through them. You know, it's specialist, it's fantastic. You can go on to achieve so many things. And everybody's got an element of something.
Of course they have.
If you had to sit down and do a test of whatever, we would all have something. If you go looking for something that deeply, then you'll find it. And then what? What does that do? We are all different.
Just finding out how people tick.
Doing the best for you. And if you're in a family with different children, recognising each one is individual. All of them are not going to want beans on toast for dinner. Okay? One will want something, one will be a vegan, and one will be a steak, and one will be, you know, fruitarian. You know, and giving your child that comfort, knowing that's okay, correct. You know, there's times and places we don't want fussy eaters either, but knowing what works with the child. Okay, just because one works with lists and ticking and getting a badge, the other one might want to have a more fluid. They might find that too overpowering. The other one might want a bit more fluid, hand-holding type of interaction. Treat them individual, because they are individual. They don't want to be clones or have someone that they need to look up to, or they're better than the younger. You know, or a single child that's, you know, just the be all and end all on a pedestal. We've got to be careful, because they are mini versions of us, and they might have to look after us one day.
Totally. I'm like, and there's so much pressure on parents. There really is. An unreasonable amount of pressure on parents. They're doing this topic, they're doing that topic. They've got fancy dress thing going on, they've got that going on. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think we put too much pressure on ourselves and too much pressure on the children to feel so much in a day.
Yes. And a lot of parents in our generation now, they want the children to have what they never had.
Yes.
People have a lot more to give now. People are a lot more affluent and able to give their children all these treats. So they're pushing them down every sociable route possible, sporting, music, parties that are, these birthday parties are now
they're ridiculous.
Affairs that need, so many likes, and you've got to have this decoration.
We're sitting in the garden this week, and that's what we're doing for Vico's birthday, having the fire pit going, have some outside food, and just enjoy it and chill.
Play, run, fresh air.
Go up the tree.
Yeah, so parents are almost reliving their childhood through the children, whether they, maybe they didn't get an education, so they're pushing the child down the university route. Recognise they are your children, let them find their own way, please guide them, give them all the choices that are out there, showing, not telling, living it yourself, and let them make their own choices.
It's a bit like, got all these toys, but when they're little, they want to play with the empty boxes.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, and they'll go, I'm bored.
That costs nothing.
Yeah, why not saying, I'm bored. They've got every toy out on the floor. They've got the outdoors. They've got swings, everything. You've just got, you're bored. Every channel on the TV, anything you could give them.
I said this to mine. I went, well, we had 4 channels.
Yeah.
4 channels. I remember I went Channel 5 coming in. What, you didn't, no, we didn't have Amazon Stick or whatever it's called. We didn't have any of that. What? No, we didn't. But we also, at the end of the day, we were allowed to go and play outside. And that's the difference as well, is being able to do that. And also, things that don't cost anything, going on a bike ride, do with your kids.
It's the memories, it's the feeling. They will remember that feeling, going out with mum and dad, biking down so-and-so. And it builds skills, fresh air, looking out, seeing what's in nature. Every type of thing, there's all the senses stimulated. Fun, love, laughter, having a little picnic or a drink out somewhere. All of these things are invaluable. They cost nothing,
And we're not saying to, again, we're going back to the pressure thing with parents. I'm not saying you have to do it every day.
No.
Maybe once a week,
of
because we've got busy lives with work and one thing and on, and basically things opening up as well. So it's just that time, if for me, a Sunday's really important. So I would like for the whole country to be closed on a Sunday, like it used to be. I remember when Sundays first opened, it was a big thing, wasn't it?
It was major.
It was a major thing. Now things are open.
It's 24/7.
Yeah.
Deliveries 24/7. Amazon, you can get it the same day. We live in a very fast culture. What you want, you can get immediately. And that's seen as a good thing. I'm doing it quicker, turning it around quicker, cheaper or more expensive. There is such different reflections of what we can get. With so much choice, but it still doesn't seem, long enough. You work very long hours. Still, it's not enough. Well, I want to see you at 10 p.m. Well, I want to finish at 9. It's never enough. So you have to set your boundaries, boundaries that you're comfortable with within the family. A couple of, even if it's an hour after school, a little walk, all having your fun elements on Saturday, home time Sunday. So there's balance. So they're not frazzled going back to school on Monday.
Yeah, and those habits, as you said right at the beginning of the podcast, Shelly, is so important. So what a parent's doing, so it doesn't transfer onto the child. Your habits are what you do in your routine at home to your routine in the morning.
Yes.
So, it's Choni will go to me, well, how many clients you got today, Mummy? What's your day? How's your day been? And all those things, which is, I think, is really important.
So sweet,
because that's what we ask them. So also the other thing is pressure on parents when kids are going through exams, especially look at the other age now, that going into the 14, 15, 16 and A-levels and GCSEs. I know from people that basically feedback from the teenager, child, stroke going into adult, how stressed out and not knowing how to communicate, and them acting out and being horrible to their parents as well. Putting pressure on themselves so highly, they don't know how to vent it or how to release that emotion and feeling to help them focus, because they're so pressuring themselves, because they're being told that if you don't get these grades, you're not going to get into the place that you want to. And now the schools have changed, now that they've got to stay on till they're 18. There's even more pressure for people that are, you know, the academic route sort of thing. They want to go, they can't go off and do the things that we did, you know, for instance. So that in itself, you feel sorry for as a parent. I mean, I'm going to have 3 that are going to be teenagers, Shelly.
Oh my goodness.
They're going to be with you once a week. but yeah, you know, I think it's really important for people to be able to access that privately to the parents as well as the child as well. So the parent is knowing that they need to release the frustration of a child, and they possibly do know that that's the reason why they're acting out in that way, but it's still hard to deal with.
It's hard, and this is where open relationship comes in. If you feel that you're unrelatable to your child, which is a thing as well, different generations or backgrounds, but have the open awareness of knowing that they can go to someone else for that type of support and come and share the information with them, with the parent, when they have completed. You know, it could be a session or 2. It doesn't have to be long term. Therapy isn't always about coming in every week for months at a time. Nobody wants that these days. So when I first started training in counselling, it's very effective, but people want something quicker. Now, I don't mean a quick fix where we can fix this quickly. You're all right for a week or 2, and then you're back to square one. But by then you've had your therapy and it didn't work, is what people assume. You have to maintain good practice. Good practice as much as you can as you go through these phases of your life, because it's all development stages, even as adults. How many adults do we see that do certain things, for instance, cooking or lifestyle, because that's the way we do it. That's the way my mum did it. How's your relationship with your mum? You couldn't stand each other, but yet that's what you do. You're allowed to explore and expand on that now. As you reach into your young adulthood, you can realise that you have the power to change the old behaviours, because it's the behaviours and the emotions tied in the behaviours. Can you imagine getting told as a little one, that little thing gets escalated all of those years where it becomes and gathers energy like a rolling snowball to become a huge massive energy within your body, which is holding on to that, ready to be inflamed whenever there's a torch lit, you know, and then they just explode out of nowhere because it's triggered just like that. Watching things on TV is a huge trigger. You know, there's all these experiences going on in the soaps or on the teen channels or whatever they're doing, and it relates, and then everything you relate back to yourself. So if you had a sharp word, if you've had a bit of abuse, or if you've had some exam stress that you've not been able to manage, it can only take so much. The body shuts down certain systems, as you know, to allow your heart to beat faster. The heart's beating faster, you get panicky, out of breath, you think you're going to die. That creates panic attacks, that creates more nervous tension, that creates a very inflamed nervous system. So your energy levels are getting hotter and hotter and hotter. Breath is short, you're out there looking for a solution. It's all about coming back in, because the only thing you can deal with is yourself. But someone can help you with that. Someone can hold your hand alongside with you, you know, not directing you and telling you what to do. Therapy isn't that either. You've got to find the right therapist that you feel comfortable with, that will give you this information. There are more direct approaches, of course, and if that's what suits you, then that is fine. That's what you build your rapport with your therapist or whoever, people that come to you. It's like when you go to the hairdressers and they tell their whole life story to the hairdresser, and they just, you know, but people are desperate to tell their tale, but it doesn't always come out in the right way. And some people like being in a state of chaos as well.
Yeah, some people do like to be in a state of chaos, but you know, we're fortunate enough that we're working with people that actually want the tools to guide them, to make them feel better within oneself, but to others as well.
Yeah.
You know,
if you're enlightened enough to make the call to anyone like ourselves and other people out there, that's a great first step. You know, clients said to me the other day, "Oh, are you going to tell me off and tell me to, you know, it's silly?" Others go, "It's silly, it's silly." It's not silly.
No, it's not.
It isn't silly. Look at you. You're a wonderful person, and you know, you've got all these aspirations and goodness in you. But because someone's planted a seed somewhere, it can just overtake.
Yeah.
And it escalates. And the intrusive thoughts come, and then it turns into scenarios and then behaviours. None of it has actually happened.
Because they're feeding it constantly. And
It
it's
gets bigger
not,
and bigger and bigger. And it holds more space in the body. When you've got that space already held up, how are you going to let anything else in? If love was to come your way, if the ability to concentrate for your exam was to come your way, if a sporting ability was to come your way, you can't, because you're carrying all this excess baggage.
And that's why I love hypnosis, because it works. It really does. You know, having that the beginning of the session to talk, and then you tailor in the session to fit around the child, the adult, the elderly, whoever it might be. It just works, and it's such a valuable tool. And I'm so privileged to have that in my life, and I've been able to find that, and you working in the clinic. So I thank you for that, Shelley, and all the help and support that you give to my family over the years. I mean, you've been treating my kids since they were tiny little dots. I remember when Biana came back and he went, "I remember Shelley. Shelley's the glamorous one." And I was like, yeah, that's the one. I had a really nice time. She's lovely. She really helped me, because he was going through a massive difficult time at school, which is going in the right direction and stuff now. But yeah, God, it's so important that you to understand that there's an answer to all our problems.
There is. And hypnosis, the wonderful thing about it, it makes profound change really quickly.
Yeah.
And you don't have to dig up the past, because people don't want to.
No.
It's uncomfortable. You don't have to find that moment when something happened and that's
totally.
why you do this. You know, you don't have to do that. If the client brings it up, that's fine. I don't press for the information. If I ask something just to help build up a profile, that's okay. But there aren't any intrusive questions. Someone isn't going to turn up to waste their own time or money by not telling you information that's going to help them. Neither do you have to be in tears. You don't have to be, you know, feeling wretched before you access therapy. A lot of people are, because the current situation is like that. People, grown men, grown women, elderly, coming in, their life has changed drastically. They don't know you, but you can just see from their face they are just a dam ready to burst. We don't even say nothing. I give them the tissues, and there we go.
Yeah.
The tears flow, and with it is emotion, because it's pent up emotion in that physical response. And then we just gently, whatever they want to say comes in however way. There's no, form, write it down, give me your lifeline from here to this.
And the thing with it is as well is that, I've had counselling from a very young age. And for me, it didn't work. It didn't work because you kept reliving it, and I wasn't given the tools to be able to assist myself to get better. So in this particular setting itself, I'm not saying that's the same for everybody, but in this particular setting for myself, it was like, well, you haven't done these things. And it's like, well, you're a child, and that's why it's really important to do your research and so on to find the right practitioner and therapist for you, because that's, for me, the dual approach. And then also the thing that you do, Shelley, as well is with the kids, which I think is amazing. You get on a level with everybody. You're able to tap straight into what needs to happen to get that person to feel that the trust. The trust is there. You care. And when you care, you open your heart. And when you open your heart, you can facilitate change. And it makes such a massive difference. As I call you the guardian angel for me, But the thing is, it's tailoring each session to to the child, that they help feel trusted, and they can then open up, and things that they didn't really feel that was relevant has been feeding that seed that we've been talking about. You can get that to go away.
Yeah, completely. And
so it's not left into adulthood.
That's right. It's not keeping them awake at night. It's not developing into something major when it could have been just easily, taken away, that pain. A lot of adults that I see, that tends to work. Then I'll see the children. They'll ask if I'll see the children, and we have the conversation to think, are they open enough? Do they know you're having therapy? Consider me as a sort of a friend of the family. They're not being singled out. I always allow the parent to sit in or be nearby or an eye shot. You don't want the child to feel nervous. If the child sits on the floor, I'll sit on the floor. I've got a few gadgets and toys, and I encourage them to bring their things as well. Just a bit of, because they want something to fidget with. Children are fidgety. The other day I asked, what music do you want on? We don't have to have this, boring stuff. And they wanted country and western. And it was just amazing. I didn't even know what it was, but we got it on. And
what did you have?
Country and western.
I do like good and country and western.
And it was, it was. I didn't know it, but they, make it comfortable for them. The parent is already familiar with you and your style. The child needs to know what we talk about, because again, it's their confidentiality as well, and it is confidential. I'm not telling everything that the child said to the parent. If there's something worrying, something that's going to damage them or themselves or others, then I will, but I'll always give reassurance. Always give reassurance to the parent. Obviously, they want to make sure their child is okay. And if something was happening at school, for instance, or with someone or online, and that the parent needs to be aware about, I would tell them, not in terms of the whole story, but tell them where they need to manage a certain area. Or open that gate so then they can talk about it together. Because they'd be too frightened, the child might be frightened. And don't underestimate, loving, kind parenting, which most people are, because it instills in a child values, and these values, for example, again, another family I've worked with have helped the child in school in a very unfortunate situation where the child knew this wasn't right and got themselves away from the situation immediately. And you can use your imagination of what these things might be. But that's because of this just good day-to-day, kind, calm, caring parenting, instilling good values, knowing what's acceptable and what isn't, what are boundaries now. And personal boundaries for young children is a new arena that we need to be aware of. And, I've had a conversation with my boys, no one is allowed to invade your space. Your personal, your clothing, no one can do anything with that. You don't allow anyone to come near you or suggest that you do certain things.
Just the same as you would stranger danger.
Stranger danger, completely. You don't. And I find, from what I can see, the schools are good at the moment. Mine are young yet, so there is that care. But just this morning I saw little ones just going to school on their own. It does worry me, but we used to go on our own. Where do you draw the line?
It is a hard balancing act. It's a hard balancing act. I remember when it was like, I've sent Shelly to shop. I went, what? What? Michelle, you need to, and he was right. He was right. He was totally right. And I said, how long? Time and stuff and rucksack and shopping list of what to get from the corner shop sort of thing. And I look back and I was like, crazy, because we also again were conditioned with bad stuff that's happened, what you see in the social media and so on. You've got to give some freedom.
You do,
Otherwise the kids will rebel.
And they don't know how to cope.
And they won't be honest with you either.
And they don't develop any sense of self. They don't know how to cope. They don't know how to, nowadays it's so accessible on an app. How do you go to a shop and choose your own bits? It's so difficult, whereas when I was young, they just sent you off and they didn't care when you came back in 2 hours or whatever, But they want, if you loaf of bread or something, you're always going to the chip shop, or we just went out for the day and didn't come back till the evening as kids.
It's true.
But the world is different now.
This world's very different now.
We do need more care and safety nets and safeguarding them, finding them, not only real world, but virtual world. So it is hard for parents.
thank you for today, Shelley. It's been an amazing podcast today. I think that's reached out to many people out there. We've covered a lot of areas with regards to, there's so many more that we can do. But if anybody needs any help or support, Shelley's given out some amazing guidance and advice there. Look on those different websites as well. But if not, if you really like what Shelley does, please contact us at the clinic at www.eternalbeing.co.uk. You'll see Shelley's details and stuff there, and you can call us to arrange an appointment. I can't praise Shelley enough. She's my guardian angel. She's such an amazing lady, and knows exactly how to work with people to unplant those entrenched seeds so that they don't turn into a toxic oak tree. Yes. So, but thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.